Okay, so hopefully you're having some fun here. I want to go and open up one of our other project files here. So I'll go File and then down to Open. And make sure you're looking at your Lesson 7 folder, which of course is inside the Project Files folder on your desktop, inside the Part 1 folder. And grab Type Effects and then click on Open. And here we go. Here's our Type Effects file here. You can see I've created some text here for us already. It's all outlined. And we're going to have some fun with this down here in the bottom. This is me before I have coffee. This is me after I have coffee. The cartoons are pretty funny there. I hope you like them. But obviously we got to do something with the type treatment. So we'll fix that up in a little bit here. But I want to show you some neat effects here on our type up towards the top. I'm going to zoom in on the Pretty Sweet Effects text here. And if you do a little bit of clicking around, you'll find that we have 3 groups. And what I did is I created a gradient, and I just filled these text objects with the gradient here. I'll start with pretty up at the top here. So I'll highlight it with my black arrow tool, and I'll go up to my Effect menu, and I want to show you some warp effects. Now, if you haven't played with warp effects yet, you're in for a treat. So I go Effect, Warp, and then Arc. I turn on preview here, and this is what I get. Talk about getting some dynamic effects here. Talk about adding some interest to your text and to your different objects and images and so on. So right now I'm applying the arc warp style. I can use this bend slider to bend it downwards like this, or bend it upwards using a positive percentage here. So I might decide I want something like this. I can also go horizontal, which I'm doing right now, or vertical. I could have something like this, which is pretty wild. I'm going to go back to horizontal here. I kind of like what I had earlier. So something like this. I can also start messing around with my distortion options. So horizontal distortion. Maybe I want the Y to be a little bit bigger, or I want the P to be a little bit larger, something like this. And also, of course, some vertical distortion. Tilt it forwards towards me or tilt it away. And the cool thing is you can see my original blue paths in the background. This is, of course, a live effect. So when I hit OK and I go into my preview mode, this is what Illustrator is seeing. Illustrator still sees the original text. Now that's pretty sweet. So you could come along and grab the sweet text here. I'll go back into Effect, back down to Warp. And by the way, Arc is the first of many. And we certainly don't have enough time to go through all of them. But I'll show you some of the neat ones here. For whatever reason, I always seem to start on Arc, even if it's not Arc that I want, because I can find that same drop-down list here, and Illustrator gives me this little tiny preview so I can kind of see what I'm going to get before I go for it. So if I want a flag here or a little wavy effect here or something, I'm going to go for bulge here for sweet, and I'll turn on my preview. You can see it's bulging out there. Again, quite literally, it's a matter of fiddling with sliders. That's really all there is to it. Maybe I want some sort of an effect like this. Click on OK. We have one more to go, which is Effect. So I'll highlight this guy. Effect, down to Warp. Again, for whatever reason, I always go Arc first, and then fiddle from there. And maybe this time what I'll do is I will do Arch. So I'll grab Arch and turn on my preview. Woo! And I'll make sure that this is a vertical arch. And now I'm getting this kind of an effect. Again, just fiddle with your sliders until you get the result that you're after. Maybe I want something like this. Click on OK. It's pretty awesome stuff. So there's your warp effects. And I'm kind of zipping along here, just kind of showing you this quickly. But there's so many cool things you can do with your warp effects. We'll do some more warping in just a second here. I'm going to rotate this guy around just a little bit. I just want to finish this off here. I can never start on text and not finish it. I have to finish it off. So maybe I'll just finish this up quickly. I'll pull this guy on top of the word sweet. And by the way, do you notice I'm not dragging inside the Illustrator paths? I can drag all the way on the outside. So in other words, Illustrator lets me grab the live preview area of the graphic, of the object, if you will. And I can certainly drag on it from the inside or the outside. Maybe I'll finish this off just by doing a little bit of a drop shadow. I'll go Effect, Stylize, down to Drop Shadow, turn it on here, and I'm getting this drop shadow. But you know what? I don't want to have to redo the drop shadow 2 more times. That's kind of a pain. So I'm going to hit Cancel here, and I'll hold down Shift and grab the other 2 items here. And then I'll go back, Effect, and down to Stylize, and then over to Drop Shadow. There's my drop shadow dialog box. Fire up my preview there. Now, did you see the slight delay there? That's because Illustrator has to take time there to render the drop shadow. Now, I'm a big fan of drop shadows without blurs, so I'll set that to 0, but you can certainly leave that on if you want. And we did a little bit of drop shadowing earlier, so you can play around with this a little bit more if you like. I'll switch this to 5 and 5 for my X and Y offset there. There it is, very lovely. I'll hit OK. And there we are. Now, my only challenge for this is that my shadow, for example, on the word pretty, is covering up the sweet. And the sweet drop shadow is covering up the effects. What's up with that? Well, that's all based on stacking order. If I take this guy and send him to the back, for example, Control-Shift open square bracket or Command-Shift open square bracket, now it's looking like that, but now you can see the drop shadow on the S is overlapping the R. How do you get around it? Well, unfortunately, what you'd have to do is create multiple objects and send them to the back and perhaps fill them with black and offset them or something like this. You might be able to get away with something like that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it the way it is for now. The only thing that I want to adjust, and this is really more of a rehashing here for you, is my arc that I put on the word effects. So I'm going to go and grab my appearance palette here. You can see I have warp, arch, there's my drop shadow. I'm going to double click on this. I'm not a huge fan of this arch here, so instead maybe I'll go arc lower, turn on my preview, automatically updates. Oh, it made a mess of that over there. I'm not sure what's happening there. I'll pull this back from the dead just a little bit. There, maybe something like that. It was the vertical that was doing that. So maybe I'll leave it at something like this. Okay. So in other words, keep playing and keep playing until you get exactly what it is that you want, and hopefully you have lots and lots of fun.